Tonight on Nightline, the question, could you ask your brother, your wife, your friend to risk their lives to try and save your own? Brother's keeper, how far would you go for someone you love or for someone you hardly know? Life and death. One man puts his life on the line, but will it be enough? A special edition of Nightline.
From the global resources of ABC News, with Terry Moran in Washington, Martin Bashir and Cynthia McFadden in New York City, this is Nightline, September 17, 2007.
Good evening, I'm Terry Moran. Tonight, the story of one man facing that most fundamental of facts about our lives, that someday they will end. No man knoweth the day or the hour. But the man you will meet tonight knows time is running out. He needs an organ donation, or he will die. So he's looking for a live donor, but donating an organ is an extremely dangerous proposition. Can he weigh his own life against those of the people he loves? For much of this year, our colleague John Donvan has been following his journey, the incredible ups and downs, moments of profound hope and of despair. His report tonight is the first in our week-long series, Life and Death.
It seemed so oddly matter-of-fact, the sight of a surgeon wheeling his way toward operating room 12 of the Leahy Clinic on a Wednesday morning this summer, where, when he arrived, a dying man lay on the operating table.
We're going to take his liver out now.
His name is Stephen Jemian, and the question was, could they save him? Because what they wheeled in as rock music played overhead was a chunk of human liver just removed from a living person a few doors away in OR 10.
I saw him 2 or 3 days ago in the office, and we checked all of his labs again. He hasn't had any fevers, and he's got a normal white blood count, so we're all set to go today.
And let's go over to that room for a moment, because this was the person who let them take a piece of his liver, more than half of it, and now they were about to sew him back up.
Well, this guy has, thought a lot about it and has really remained committed throughout the whole thing.
And between these two rooms, there is a story that we followed over several months of how a man asks another man to save his life, and what it's like to be asked to give up a part of yourself, literally, and at great risk.
When I went in Thursday, I informed my supervisors and my main manager that this is it. I'm not gonna be able to work. I'm gonna have to go on disability now.
It was February when we first met Stephen Jemian. His wife Corey was with him as he visited a series of doctors, and it was clear that he was very sick. His doctor, James Pompicelli, told him how serious it was.
Your chances of dying from your liver disease in the next 3 months is a little over 10%.
Here's what was happening on this day. Stephen, whose liver had been failing slowly for years, that's why his skin is turning yellow. He had a disease called primary sclerosing cholangitis. He was finally at the point where he was going to need a new liver, which in some ways he still wasn't ready to hear.
I don't feel good. I don't feel that bad, though, I mean, I don't feel like I'm at, really at that point yet where I'm like, I'm worried that I'm going to die or anything. I mean, I certainly don't feel like that. All right, let's go in the kitchen and we'll...
Stephen at this point was 36 years old. He had a 3-year-old named Elizabeth. He was employed by Holy Cross College in Worcester, Massachusetts in their printing center. He held a second job as a salesman at Pure Hockey.
All right, Elizabeth, be careful. It's a little warm, okay?
Because hockey was his life. He played all the time, even though since 1992 he's been sick. And the prospect of going through a liver transplant, it seemed like something he could put off forever. But now the doctors were telling him it was do or die time, literally.
If we had unlimited organs, of course, we would transplant you right now.
Of course, right.
But we don't.
The hard facts were that Stephen needed a new liver fast, but the waiting list was months long, possibly too long for him to get one from the organ bank.
What, you know some of their names? What are they?
But they told him there was another option. Look to your family, look to your friends, in a sense, to the people in the picture frames on your own mantelpiece, and one of them, perhaps, can be the donor, a living donor. But here's the catch. Whoever helps you will be taking a serious risk, because the healthy donor in these cases can get sick, sometimes sicker than the person who needs the liver. he can even die.
I mean, that's not good because that's...
And when I talked with Stephen at home in his kitchen, we discussed, how do you ask for that kind of help? What are the rules? What is the etiquette?
The way the doctor explained to me, really, we don't want you putting up billboards saying, or going online and stuff like that. We'd really be more comfortable if you would ask family members or ask friends, close friends. Friends that I think the way they said it was friends that you have an emotional relationship with.
And in that category, of course, no one is closer to Stephen than his wife, Corey. And I asked her, would she do it? Take the risk of giving a part of her liver to her husband?
Yes.
Really?
Yes. Absolutely.
Despite the risk?
Absolutely. Yeah. I don't think I'm going anywhere. And I certainly don't want him to go anywhere.
But the doctors didn't want that anyway, because Stephen and Corey, they have that little girl, Elizabeth.
When we approached the doctors about it, they really kind of said, no. If your daughter was a lot older, maybe we'd consider it, but with a 3-year-old daughter, it's really not an option because if something happened, she'd be left without both parents.
But right now, the clock was running, and if Stephen did not find someone to help soon, this family faced the prospect of losing a husband and a father, and Corey, the tough one, she was scared.
The thought of losing him is just, too much. Can you hold on a second?
The next piece of news was bad news for Stephen, because the first people he turned to were his brothers. His older brother Neil had already proved to be the wrong blood type. That left his younger brother David, a 30-year-old photographer.
Hello. My name is David Jemian, prospective liver donor for my brother Stephen Jemian.
And Stephen told me that when he asked the donor question, he found it difficult to be direct about it.
I basically handed them a pamphlet and said, this is something that the hospital would like me to consider doing. To this day, I haven't asked anybody to do it. I don't know, it just feels funny to ask somebody to make that kind of commitment.
But David got the point.
He knows, I could see it in his eyes, kind of, and how he asked me, that it was probably one of the hardest things he's ever had to do. No fainting.
And so David stepped forward and went for the medical checks to make sure he was a good match in all ways, not just blood type. But the more the doctors told him, the more he worried about what he'd signed on for.
This is a huge operation. This isn't like having your gallbladder out or having knee surgery or,
Right.
So the estimated chance of dying or having a catastrophe that's quoted in this circumstance is somewhere about a 0.5% range. But as I say to people, you don't 0.5% die. You're either alive or dead at the end of the day. And the whole purpose of the evaluation is to be able to assess your risks. This is all about honesty at this point because, let's face it, you are a healthy guy, and as bad as your brother's problem is, it's not your responsibility to fix it.
Oh, sure. Talked to my father a little while back, and he said my brother was feeling pretty down and kind of depressed about the whole thing, and, hoping that I sort of hadn't changed my mind. And I finally talked to him about it, and he asked me, he's like, have you changed your mind, or, how you feeling about it? And I was like, well, I'm kind of be lying to say that I'm not freaked out about it.
Then biology made the decision because tests showed there was an issue with David's blood.
My blood doesn't clot as easily, and that's really what ruled me out.
It meant David could not be the donor, and he was honest enough to say that there was a part of him that wanted to hear that.
Just kind of have some mixed emotions about that. It's kind of sad and a little bit relieving at the same time, being that it is such a major surgery.
In some ways, when I found out my brother, I almost was, a little part of me was happy, because now he doesn't have to go through this.
It was a generous response, but Stephen was still in very serious trouble.
I'm just worried about that right now. I don't know if there's really anybody else that could be a candidate, per se, in my family. I don't have really many other friends that I could possibly have.
The question was, would anyone come to Stephen's rescue in time?